Nigel Thomas, thank you so much for coming on the Inner Edison Podcast. I really appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, absolute pleasure, man.
All right. So the we talked a little bit in the green room before we went live with our mics, and basically you're putting together a newsletter. It's called David to Goliath, about your journey from, and I don't want to take everything away from you. So, but basically it's your journey. So why don't you kind of explain it real quick about what your journey is and what you're documenting?
Yeah, sure. So, look, I have been building and scaled businesses like the last 6 years. I'm 32 years old now. I quit my corporate job when I was 26, and I built multiple marketing agencies in various industries. And I was the kind of guy at school, man, that I didn't have any confidence, right? I got bullied a lot as a child, stuck out as a sore thumb. And that's probably why entrepreneurship landed its hand to me. Then I met this woman who just changed my life. She gave me all the self-belief that I needed to become a confident CEO, to walk on stage and talk in front of hundreds of people and lead these companies. And she actually was in some of these companies. And we hit this huge milestone in September last year. And from the outside looking in, it was all sunshine and rainbows. But little did my team know, on the inside, I was crumbling. So back right at that point, I was on my balcony in Austin, staring down at the concrete 22 floors below, preparing myself to jump, because I lost the woman I believed in most. She betrayed me and she cut me out of her life overnight. And I only had one person. They say don't put all your eggs in one basket. I only had one egg in one basket, and I fucking put everything into that basket. And that got tore away from me. And it was in that moment that I said to myself, if I'm not going to do this for me, I'm going to do this for everyone else and continue for everyone else who deserves a second chance in life. And that's when I started the mission, David to Goliath, which is documenting my comeback from suicide, journaling my way through a newsletter, which I put out every single week. And I want to show people that even if they're in a hard situation, that, in my opinion, the world's gone a bit too soft, and you need to stand up and take responsibility for your situation. And yes, even though you're struggling, you need to take action, whether that's through exercise, building a business, whatever it is. And I want to prove that to people through my own actions. So we've got an audacious goal of getting to 100,000 subscribers in one calendar year. Right now, at the time of speaking, we're 15 weeks in. We've already hit 20,000 subscribers. So one of the fastest growing newsletters in the world. And I'm just documenting this journey and obviously getting on great podcasts like yours to share the mission and get more people involved. And hopefully, if they're in a situation like that, they can start their own comeback story.
Gotcha. What do you do? So besides the newsletter, what do you do?
That is it. I
That's
only
it.
do it. So I do some agency consulting, because I ran these agencies, and when I stepped down as CEO, a lot of agencies asked me for help. So I'm doing some mentoring on the agency side. But apart from that, that's all I'm doing is the newsletter.
So your other companies, you were bought out? Is it basically
Sorry?
Yeah. So you worked for these companies that you had when you had that, when you went through that
So
thing.
I was a shareholder in the last company, and so I've got some equity in it.
Right. So
But no,
that's
yeah,
you're not a nomad with no money. You're just don't have to.
no.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
just don't have to work, is what you're saying.
yeah. I am working pretty hard.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. So you, as consulting, is what you're saying, and I'm not trying. I'm just trying to understand.
Oh
Nigel.
yeah. So I don't know if you understand like how much work goes into running a newsletter. It's not just typing up an email and sending it out. So each newsletter, that we do podcasts and stuff, and each newsletter takes about 50 hours to put together. So that's 100 hours work a week, obviously between me and my team. Then outside of that, I go and speak on stage at events. Like I said, I've got the mentoring going on as well. And then the other thing is writing content. I've got a personal brand on LinkedIn with over 50,000 people, and then venturing out into other channels. So, it's more than a full-time job, and it definitely keeps me busy. And the other thing is, for people who don't know, I'll give you an example. So I don't know if you know Cody Sanchez. She lives out in the States.
I don't know her personally. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's basically built contrarian thinking to, it's about 700,000 subscribers to her newsletter, which is the foundation for all of her business. And now she's obviously transitioned that into a paid community, and she invests in companies in there. And she's going to grow that into $1 billion business. So I think, the thing with newsletters, it's media leverage, right? I don't know if you've heard Navar Ravikant. He's a great Indian entrepreneur. He lives in the States in Silicon Valley, and he talks a lot about leverage. And media leverage is the leverage that I'm pushing into, as well as obviously team. And a newsletter is a great way to do that, because you actually own the data instead of having to rely on the social media platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Then obviously long term, you can build really big businesses off the back of that.
No, there's a big push in my industry and other industries I know to do the newsletter again, which, we all used to do it 20 to 30 years ago. And I didn't, but I'm just saying they've been around for a while, but now it's back to more personalized because of everything that's gone the way it's gone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It always swings and roundabouts, peaks and troughs. That's how life goes.
Yeah, every because everybody was like, "Oh, learn all the old stuff. It's new." It's like, no, it's not new. It just always worked.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the technology is better now, so
of course it. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
But so that's why you see, a lot of solopreneurs, right, leaving their jobs to go and build these multi-million-dollar businesses. But yeah, you're right. I mean, humans are humans until we all become robots. We're all governed by emotion. If you know how human psychology works, and you've got a good mission, you can help a lot of people and get a lot of attention. It just, obviously the medium's changed. Just because it's LinkedIn or Instagram instead of radio and newspaper, all the fundamentals are still the same. You just have to know how those platforms work. But the underlying principle is always human psychology.
Marketing's the same. It's just where you're putting it through. Yeah. And people don't realize that. They think, oh, this is brand new and all this. I mean, okay, you're going to use the same hooks, the same, all the stuff you've done. It's just a different median to come through, right? So
yeah, of course. And it's the consistency, which is hard, right?
Well, you have to be consistent. That's the problem with podcasts. A lot of podcasts are very inconsistent. I took off about 6 months because I got tired of people not talking about their failures. And I was like, am I going to be done with this or whatever? When I came back, I don't have the same downloads I had before that got me in the 1% of the world, which they'll come back, but it's just, you're starting all over. So don't stop.
Yeah,
book enough. But if you're going to take time off because you need some break, put a bunch of stuff in the can, have it done, ready to go, and you take off 6 months, but you have the content still going for 6 months.
Or hire a team. And that's why, obviously, the big content creators, the reason why you see them going on holidays and stuff is because they have teams of people in place that run those operations for them. I think that's what a lot of the smaller creators, sure, I understand you've got to be able to have the resources to afford that. So don't let that stop you from getting started. But I think in the internet now, again, we talk about the old methods. A lot of people don't know how to lead teams and run people. And I think that's a huge skill set, which the next generation, because they've just grown up in social media, are going to have a really hard time with.
Was being able to talk to people and run a team? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, leadership. Just like even simple things like dating, just like dating, meeting people. But yeah, of course, leading teams, like being a fantastic leader. Like there's a reason that CEOs get paid a lot of money. It's hard to run people. It's hard to run teams. But if you can do that, then obviously you can have people running operations who are focused on those things, which allow you to take a bit of time off whilst things keep, going consistently. That's just my opinion, though. What do I know?
No, you're right. But you still got to do the content so that your team can keep going while you are on your vacation. But it's because so I had a huge team handling all my stuff. I took it back over for a while just to figure out how I wanted to do it differently. And then now I'm working on putting my team together to take care of all my content because I know what I want done now. Where before I relied on other people to say, this is what you want to do. This is what you want to do. And I'm like, no, it's not. Now I know exactly
follow the heart, man.
Yeah. Well, you also it's got to work with you. I had more viral videos under me than anybody else handling my stuff. Not that I'm trying to get viral videos because I'm focused on the one person that you're supposed to focus on. And then the other stuff will happen. But I just found that when you connect with your haters, you get so much more connection.
When you connect with your haters?
Yeah. So if you all right, this is my rule right now. All right. So to have a video go viral, You know, if you're and you have haters, so you always have some 50% of the time you have somebody on there who makes some comments or whatever. And most people hide it and move on. I say engage those people, because that engagement, they'll love you. Their engagement is going to be greater than somebody who loves you or who likes you, because of the fact that they're trying to get their point across. So by you engaging them, and I don't mean call them names, all that kind of stuff. I'm just talking, if they, whatever they say, just come back to them with something. Don't ignore them. A friend of mine, I told him to do this, and he had only 20,000 followers on Instagram, and his video, because he did what I told him to do, it hit 2.9 million, and now he's got over 140,000 followers on Instagram.
Nice.
In 30 days. So this is my rule to everybody. If you have somebody who says stuff, because what happened on me, I had a TikTok that went viral, and then people were like, half the people were like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's full of shit, blah, blah, blah. And so I engaged him, but then I didn't engage him as much as I explained to people to do. And it got 750,000 views, but still, if I would have engaged the way I tell people to do it now, that would have been a couple million. So
yeah, interesting strategy. Those people probably need love more than anyone else too, because they're usually in a very hard situation.
Well, they're going to make comments, and other people are going to come to your defense. And then now you have this, you have this engagement that you didn't have before. People love you. They don't always going to make a comment. They're always going to like your stuff or do stuff. They'll look at it. It's great. But somebody who doesn't love you will make a comment. So you need to engage those people so that keeps that thing going.
Well, the haters are definitely the active ones of social media.
Right. So, and they don't, and so your algorithm and all those things doesn't care if they hate you or love you. Yeah. They're just looking for that number, and that's what you do. So
I just want to keep people on platforms so they can advertise more, right?
So there you go. Now you have a little, try it on a couple, and you're going to go, holy cow, this shit works.
Yeah, just got to get those haters first. No,
I'm sure you got them. I'm sure you got a few of them. When we call them haters, they're anybody who says negativity is a hater. Period.
Yeah, I went viral on Reddit a few times, and trust me, if you want hate, go to Reddit. It's the best platform for hate.
I know, but it doesn't help your other media stuff.
No. Yeah, but if you just want to learn what haters are, go to Reddit, because it's full of them.
Well, I'm just saying, to even growing your newsletter, but having it on something, and if you're engaged in other platforms and people find out you have the newsletter, they're going to come and subscribe to your newsletter because there's more engagement. Yeah. It's hard today. It's very hard to get amazing engagement because of everybody doing stuff. Everybody using AI to cut up stuff, do all this other stuff. There's more people producing content than ever before. So it's harder to go organically viral.
Yeah. That's why I think, again, another thing that people miss out on is storytelling. I think a lot of people ask me, it's like, how do you make better content? And it's like, well, first, actually get some life experience and have a story to share. And then if you're willing to be vulnerable and talk about, because everyone loves an underdog, right? The hero's journeys, So be vulnerable and lean into your struggles, and then tell people what you use as a solution. And if it's very unique to you, I still don't see that much of that. Like, not people faking it to try and do that, people actually doing it. I still think there's an angle for that personally, but you're right. It's definitely a lot more competitive.
Well, yeah. And like you said, the hero's journey is in everything we do, but just telling people, going through your story. I had a friend of mine who told a story how he got fired a year ago because he was hiding what he does, right? Yeah. Because he's in a corporate world, and he got fired over a year ago, and he had the most engagement of any of his posts because he actually was honest in what happened to him.
Exactly.
And that's what you're just talking about, telling your story. Don't make it up, but tell the real story, and if you don't have any life lessons, then go get some.
Yeah. And if you're really willing to do it, share the deepest, darkest secrets that no one else has the balls to do. And trust me, that'll get engagement. Just make sure you're okay with people finding out of it. You're sharing like personal shit.
Well, see, I'm also on radio, talk radio here locally. And I was a secret up until I got on talk radio. Now everybody knows everything that I've been through and everything about it, because it just comes out. You just talk about it, and that's how people connect with you. And it's really connecting with you, the people that you're talking to, and that's really important. And you really need to talk to the one person. This is just my take on it from being on radio. They don't allow you to say listeners. You have to you have to talk as a you. I'm talking to you, because when you say listeners,
Yeah.
they think the person next to them, not them.
Yeah. It's the same with writing. You know, you write
Yeah.
for the one person, right? It always, because then you find those people out of the 8 billion people in the world, right? And it always seems more personalized.
Well, and also with what we're talking about, when you're doing this and you engage in certain people, you want to repel the people you don't want to bring in the people you do want. And that's you want to be honest with everybody. Who cares? You're gonna come across stuff, but eventually the right people will come to you, and the rest will go away.
Yeah, and looping it back, if you're gonna, one of actually probably the most underrated thing about putting content out there, since I spoke about the team thing, is actually hiring, in my opinion. Because if you put really raw, authentic content out there, what will happen over the course of, let's say, 6 to 12 months is people buy into your values and your principles as a person. And then when you want someone to hire, or they might reach out to you, you will bring in someone who's totally aligned with your mission, and you won't have to go through recruiters or the whole onboarding process. And you'll have people that believe in the exact same values only if you are actually honest. If not, you'll have to put on a mask, which isn't reality. And that's the worst thing in the world. So it's worth like having the filter. And like you said, getting those people out who really, let's be honest, if they're friends, they're just going to be backslappers and stab you in the back anyway. And bring the loyal people who actually believe in what you believe. And yeah, they'll be some of your best hires. I know, because that happened to me.
So how did you find your team? Was it that way, or did you find them before, one or two before?
Yeah. I mean, I've done various ways. Obviously, I didn't have a personal brand at the start, so just had to go through reaching out to people and using recruiters. But then once I started getting a little bit of traction on LinkedIn, it was just, do a job post and then organically for free, and then people just apply. We had, some people who could have gone to work at Fortune 500 companies come and work for a startup agency just because they really believed in the mission and what I stood for as a person.
But for now, who's handling your newsletter? That team? How did you find that team? Same way?
So it's just people in my network. Yeah. Because I always find if content's really good, but if you want to get people up to speed faster, recommendations, in my opinion, at least, usually the best.
Yeah, because I mean, I get hit up all the time for all these people to do certain things to me, and it's at that point where you're like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think it's like,
let me give you all my information, and the next thing I know, everything's gone.
Yeah, I think I saw a study recently. It's like 70 or 80% of all business worldwide is impacted by word of mouth marketing one way or another. So, recommendations are in everything we do in life.
Right. Well, that's how we used to do it. And when in my industry, they would go, "Who do you know?" You get referred to everybody, and that was the best way. But it's a little bit harder when it comes to online content, when you have all these people from every single country in the world reaching out to you to tell you how your SEO is not doing amazing and you need to make these other changes.
Yeah. I mean,
I want to help you with your business because I think it's amazing. What do you do?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. All right, or the people who say that they can help grow your LinkedIn following and then you have 10 followers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a branding expert and they only have 3,000 people on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. So, actions speak louder than words at the end of the day, don't they?
Because I know a lady who's on major stages and she talks about all this stuff, but her following's not that great.
Yeah. Interesting.
I'm like, how can you be a guru on this whole thing?
How did she even get on stage though? That's the
because I know how she got on stage. It's the old rule. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Oh yeah, I was going to say it's either that or you have a boatload of money.
No, she knows the right people who got her on stage. She talks really well,
well, she'll probably get the followers from that eventually.
Well, she still doesn't have that many, but she's not she's not higher on the eyes either, so that helps also.
Yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah. If I had boobs, I'd have so much more followers.
Yeah, but boobs. What am I even talking about? They go saggy eventually.
But that's the thing. It's like, okay, unless you that's been my whole take on this whole, I know we're on this whole thing on social media, but
Yeah.
I think social media is important, but it's not everything. There's so many other avenues to make sure that you're on also. So don't just put all, like you said, all your eggs in one basket with social media.
For business.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think
Why you think personally you should be on every social media personally?
What do you mean personally?
You just said for business. So I'm trying to see what you meant by that.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to make sure we were still talking about business. But yeah, people use dating, like social media for dating, don't they? So there's loads of things people,
right,
use to stay connected. The reason why I was going to say that is because I don't know if you ever heard of that study from Harvard. It's the longest ever study done on human happiness, like 85 years. They followed these guys around in the States. And they literally looked into everything. And the findings basically saw that the biggest thing that impacts human happiness is deep, meaningful relationships, a small number of deep, meaningful relationships. And why I think that there's so many issues now with, depression and everything, and people taking all these drugs and stuff like that. Obviously, I was in that place myself, is the fact that social media is great for connection, but like shallow connection and connecting the world together, but deep, meaningful relationships is terrible for. And I think that's why we're going to see a big rise of communities. So there's one in New York, which is a women's led community. I don't know if you've heard of it, called Chief. And they basically empower women leaders. Okay. And I think they've got about 10,000 women on it. They have to pay like an annual subscription fee. And they've got like a 60,000 person waiting list. And in 2 years, they're now valued at over $1 billion.
Wow.
So I think that kind of shows the trajectory of where communities are going to go, because people need that right now. They need those deep, meaningful relationships. So that's what I would say.
So when I was younger, we would call, you have friends and then you have acquaintances. Yeah. And the problem is everybody today thinks their acquaintance is a friend.
Yeah, because that's what it says in social media, right? Friend.
Right, exactly. But truly, you have maybe one or two best friends, and then you have friends, and then you have acquaintances. But people are afraid to make that, understanding what the difference between each one is, because they might offend somebody. No, you're supposed to know that, so you know who your friends are. Your friend is somebody that if you're in jail, you can call them and they'll come bail your ass out. That's a true friend.
Winston Churchill has a great quote. Don't know if you ever heard it. It's measure your relationships by how they show up in bad weather. That's how I measure friends.
Well, that's because you're from out of the States. You guys have a lot of bad weather. So
I think you can read in between the lines, but yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm in California. We occasionally have bad weather. So
yeah. Well, when I was in Austin, it was the opposite direction, actually. It was like 100 degrees every single day. I was melting.
Yeah. Well, the humidity and everything else is pretty bad in Texas.
So. Yeah, it's a great place though, Austin. Love it there. Yeah.
I mean, and then the problem with Texas in general is the property taxes. So
yeah, for sure. Obviously,
there's a problem everywhere with any place. Besides the property taxes, the heat, hail, the golf ball hail, and
it's good. It's a good city for networking, though.
Oh yeah,
Austin for sure.
And Dallas is becoming a really hot spot for events now, because it's halfway in between the country, so people can fly in from each coast. Because a lot of us don't want to fly to Florida anymore for an event. That's like 7 hours. I'll take the red eye to sleep on the way there, but it's still a long time to get there. I'd much rather fly 3 hours to get to Dallas or Houston.
Yeah, no, it's I didn't actually go to Dallas, just flew through it. But Austin's great place, and if you can go to the lake and stuff. But yeah, it's kind of like a city, before it's been built, with all the networking. And obviously they do have the tax advantage, right? So a lot of big companies are going there. So it's brought a lot of immigrants to the city, which been, pretty cool when I was there. At least a lot of networking and collaboration going on.
All right. So I have a question. How'd you come up with a David to Goliath as a name for your journey?
Yeah. So the thing is,
we all know the story, but how did you?
Of course. Yeah. There's a reason why it's David to Goliath, right? Instead of David versus Goliath. So basically, this woman believed in me. right? And I never had that. So for the first time in my life, I have to believe in myself. Now, obviously, I'm not here to have a religious debate, but David had the belief passed on to him, right? So he could go and take on the mighty Goliath with a slingshot and a few pebbles and become victorious, right? Do the impossible. Like you said, we all know that story. So the idea is, and for entrepreneurs especially, the biggest thing that's holding them back, it's Steve Jobs once rightly said that it's the people who think they're crazy enough to change the world are the ones who do. But what he didn't say is the best ideas are in graveyards all over our lands, because people didn't take the risk and take the chance on their idea. And why didn't they do that? It's because they often didn't believe in themselves, because they were so scared of the judgment of other people. So the whole thing is like, you take the risk, you live a bold life, and you do it with the self-belief. So the whole idea is, it's like having that self-belief, but instead of David versus Goliath, it's David to Goliath, because you write your own story. And I'm documenting my story from David to Goliath, and the idea that other people document their own.
So I want to go back to something you said. You never had anybody believe in you.
Yeah.
So what was your background for? I mean, when you grew up, did you have mom, dad, all the family?
Yeah. Yeah, I had a mum and dad, but they were very different to me. They just like worked normal jobs and stuff. So I was like the
Where at?
the family. What's
Where were they? Where were you located?
In the UK.
Okay.
Yeah, in the UK, they work normal jobs, like 9 to 5. And I had a great childhood, so I'm very grateful for that. But when it came down to kind of, breaking the mold and becoming an entrepreneur, it was very hard conversations, and I didn't really have anyone in my circle like that. So I was told not to do it by a lot of people, including my own parents. But I went against them, and that was actually one of the best decisions of my life. But I was still very unsure of myself. But it was actually really, at school and stuff, just being different to everyone. I just got bullied a lot. So I didn't really have any friends. I was like a loner. And this was really hard for me. But later on, I realized that I am different. And that's actually what makes me different as an entrepreneur, the way my brain's wired. And that helps me be a visionary in business, which is one of the best things. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why. And then as obviously I've come into entrepreneurship, now I found other people like myself, and I'm grateful to met and built a network of other incredible entrepreneurs. And whilst I thought at the time often I was one of the only ones who was like that, it just turns out there's millions of us, and that's amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the difference. Most people want safety and security. They don't want to take the risk. But the problem is the risk that they're not taking is the worst risk, because working for somebody else, there is no security.
Yeah. Plus the other thing, it actually goes even further than that, in my opinion, which is you've got to die with regret. And I couldn't think of anything worse than that. Like getting to the end of your life and literally dying with regret. I can't think of, actually, there's one more thing I can think that's worse than that. I do want to be a father one day. And I imagine looking at my kid in the eyes. Some reason I imagine it's a little girl. And I'm looking at her in the eyes and I say to her, go after your dreams with everything you've got in life. And I just think to myself, I could never, ever look at her in the eyes and say that if I didn't do that myself. So that's why I take these risks. That's why I stepped down as CEO of this agency with not that much savings in the bank to just go and start a newsletter, because I wanted to show people that I'm in the trenches too. And obviously I was in a really tough situation. I was thinking of taking my own life, but I'll fast forward it to my life, fast forward it to when I look at my kids in the eyes and I say to myself, like, what would I rather do? Well, I'd rather just try and push that thought down and look at myself every single day in the mirror and be ashamed, or I'd rather roll the dice and take a risk on myself, because life's too short not to. So sure, you need to be calculated, you can't be stupid, but often you've got to just take the jump. And that's where self-belief comes in, because no one is going to believe in you for you.
Yeah, it's really difficult. Like I've always, for most, and it might be different in the States, but for most guys, they're always told they can do anything. Women are not.
Yeah.
And so I
Mhm.
took it upon myself to make sure I told my girls that they can do anything they want in this world. Well, they're becoming
100%.
nurses, so that's good enough for them, I guess.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter. Like you don't need to make loads of money as long as you've got something that you want to pursue. It's more just trying to put the noise to one side. It's the external opinion. Because when you see a kid, right, before they've gone to school, and not about school, but more into social circles. So they start thinking about what the people think about them. When you just see a kid and they're just in that development stage and they're just so in tune with themselves and just in the world and they're taking everything in. And this is like that curiosity that people just stray away from. And then obviously they just get conditioned to just keep themselves to themselves and just do as other people please. And that's just what I want to avoid like the plague, man. And whatever people want internally, that's for them. But I genuinely think most people aren't doing what they want, and that's the biggest issue here.
All right. So how do people find your newsletter to subscribe to it?
DavidToGoliath.com.
All right. So go to davidtogoliath.com, sign up for Nigel's newsletter, help him get to 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah,
Nigel, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
appreciate it, man. I wish
right.
you all the best.
Oh, you too. And I hope you find are you going to stay in the UK or are you coming back to the States?
I've still got a place in Austin, so I'll probably come out there for a little bit soon. But yeah, we'll see how things go. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it.
All right. Sounds good. Again, Nigel, thank you so much for coming on the Inner Edison Podcast. Go check out his newsletter at davidtogoliath.com. And I appreciate you coming on today.
Pleasure.
Thank you.